Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video I will talk about the path of one of the Quincy characters that caught my attention, and she is Bambietta Basterbine. And actually I have a funny story with Bambi. Before the beginning of the final arc, the identity of the enemy that the Shinigami would face was still shrouded in mystery, but with the release of chapter 480 and Mayuri's words, it became clear that the enemy is the Quincy, and this opened another door for discussion. Aren't you and Ryuken the last Quincy's? Looks like we were wrong, and there are still other Quincy's hiding somewhere. These were our perceptions at that time. Of course, when I knew that the enemy was the Quincy, directly my mind started depicting the new Quincy characters based on the information we already had about him through what Kiski and Mayuri spoke about, as well as the events that accompanied Yuryu and Ryuken, in the sense that the Quincy will be charismatic characters, majestic personalities. So, in light of this perception that I had, I said to myself, Kobo would surely design a female characters from the Quincy based on what I have just mentioned. A beautiful woman with a majestic charisma, just like the female characters in Claymore. By the way, this is one of the most amazing manga that I have read, and you can find there powerful and beautiful female characters. So I was waiting for this mystery, and so chapter 482 came out, and there were the first appearance of the Wanderreich. When I saw this scene for the first time, I told some of my friends on the internet who were also reading the final arc, I told them, look guys, the Quincy girl that I told you about, she is one of these characters, and there is no doubt that she is this person, no doubt it's her. And this made me excited, and I was waiting to see it, as well as to see the other personalities who were hiding behind that mask. And speaking of this scene, don't you think it's strange that the one who declared the war was Ludas, or that's his name, and he is just an Arankara, and yet he was the one who led them. So I was frankly amazed at how Yuhabach made Ludas lead the Sternreiter. Anyway, in chapter 490, Kobo will show us a scene of the Sternreiter preparing to invade the Soul Society. In that scene, Hashford appeared leading the Sternreiter, and next to him on the right was Bambietta. And that was the first scene in which she appeared. Of course, the scene was from the back, and I was expecting that she would be a blonde woman, but Kobo had another vision. The important thing is that the full picture of some of the identity of the Sternreiter will become clear in chapter 484. At first, I was upset with the design of the Sternreiter, because as I said, I was picturing them according to what we had about them before. But as events progressed, I began to accept what Kobo wanted to portray about the Quincy. And Bambietta's appearance wasn't bad at all. It's just not like what I have expected. In that chapter, the Sternreiter were introduced, and in the next chapter, where Kobo started to show us some of their names. And the schoolgirl has a name now, and it's Bambietta Basterbine. And what we can notice in her first appearance is that she was fighting with a sword, and she was cutting the Shinigami into half with sword, and this was a terrifying thing, especially since she was doing it with a wide smile. And this showed us some of her sadistic personality, how her cute appearance doesn't reflect her thirsty personality for bloodshed. Also, one of the most funny scenes in that chapter is the words that Bambietta said to Komamura. This meeting between them will be cornerstone of their second meeting in the second invasion. But what we can notice is that Bambietta was the only girl in the first invasion. We didn't see Lil Tuto or Candice or Mininas, so that Kobo gave us a perception that she is the Quincy female character who will have a big role in the upcoming events. And so in chapter 504, it was evident that she was using a sword. Also, in one of the scenes of the new trailer, it was clear that she was clashing with Komamura using the sword. And in the second invasion, we didn't see it anymore. I don't know what it has to do with her explosive power, but she was one of the few characters who was using the sword, like Yuhabach and Hajvald. After the end of the first invasion and the return of the Quincy's to their castle, Kobo will finally begin to shed light on the Sternreiter and what ties they have together, and among them was Bambietta. We notice how upset she was when Yuhabach made Yurio his successor. She was afraid that this decision would have some bad consequences for the Wanderreich. We also saw another side of Bambietta's character. If you notice, in the first invasion she was ruthlessly splitting the Shinigami officers, and the same thing she did with the Quincy officers, but in another way. It seems that whenever Bambietta feels shortness of breath or stress, she chooses one of the hot, sexy officers and fulfills her desire with him, and then she kills him, as if she doesn't want anyone to remember what they did with her. Of course, this strange habit was the subject of discussion by her friends, Candace, Lilchito, Minas, and then Giselle. And this was their first appearance. Of course, we must point out that Giselle is a boy, not a girl, because this character will have a tragic effect on Bambietta. And through the conversation that took place between Bambietta and the rest, it appears that Bambietta was their leader, and this was mentioned in the second invasion. In the first invasion, Bambietta was alone, but in the second invasion, a decision was made that she would lead the group of girls, with confirmation again that Giselle is a boy. Of course, all the information we had was telling us that Bambietta was the strongest among that group. Candice and Gigi's words when Bambi released her vote standing made you feel that Bambietta would have a great place in the future of events. But unfortunately, there were two things that has changed Bambietta's destiny from good to worse. The first thing is that she fought Kumamura, who had a technique that stood against Bambietta's explosive abilities. And secondly, and this is the most important thing, is that the Sternreiter entered the second invasion according to a terrifying law: the death penalty for everyone who's gonna be defeated. When she was fighting Kumamura, Kangdo was fighting Toshiro, and BG9 was fighting Soifon, and both were defeated. As a result, Hashveld stopped his clash with Kyoraku in order to carry out the death penalty against them. Bambietta was also defeated by Sajin Kumamura, but unfortunately for her, the rest of the girls and Giselle were the ones who carried out the death penalty against her, and Giselle was the one who killed her and then used his own power to make her a zombie, and thus she became a tool in his hands. And this is the worst thing that happened to this character. There is no doubt that Giselle used all his perverted sexual desires on her. We notice how he treated her, slaps here and there. He used her as a shield against the attacks of Ikaku and Yumichika, as well as Mayuri. In this scene, Kobo made Giselle as if he was eating Bambietta's flower. I should say that everything that Bambietta did, like killing those soldiers either from Shinigami and Quincy's, and her sadistic personality, like life, destiny, made her fall into Giselle's hands, and she got what she was doing to others. So, what do you think, guys, about the destiny or the path of Bambietta? Do you agree with Kobo with what he has done with her or not? Tell me your opinion, guys, and see you in my next video.